Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you are new here, my name is Hannah and please hit the subscription button below, like this video, share and also comment, and please hit the notification post so you don't miss any update. So today we'll continue reacting to the video where a lady found out she was a side character in her marriage and she was married, legally married.
So after that FaceTime, I just sat there because now this wasn't just a theory. She's real. Her daughter was real. Her ring was real. And tomorrow he was supposed to come home. But we still didn't know exactly what home that was. We made a plan. Not emotional, not dramatic, strategic. We were going to compare documents before he landed, marriage license first. Because if one of us isn't legally married, that changes everything. So I pulled mine out of the safe, took a picture, and sent it over to her. A few minutes later, she sent hers. Same efficient, same signature style, different counties, different states, but they looked identical. Both had seals, both had the filing numbers, and that's when she said she's going to check the county databases. I didn't even know you could do that. Apparently, you can look up filed marriage license in some states. So we each checked. Mine came up. Filed, recorded, valid. She also checked hers. Also filed, also recorded. Oh, come on. Also valid, which means he didn't fake one. He somehow legally married two different women in two different states, years apart. So either the system failed or he lied about being divorced, which he wasn't. And then it hit me. Divorce decrees. We both had asked him for one when we were planning on getting married. He had paperwork. I remember glancing at it but not studying it. And she said she did the same thing. So we pulled those out too. And this is where it gets insane. The divorce decree that he showed me had her maiden name on it. The divorce decree that he showed her had my maiden name on it. But the case numbers were slightly different. And then we searched hers in the database. Nothing came up. So then I searched mine. Nothing. They looked real, but they were never filed, which means he forged divorce documents for both of us to marry us both legally. At least that's what it looked like. Now I'm not just dealing with cheating, this is fraud. This is criminal. And she's quiet for a minute. Then she says he's supposed to land at 4:10 tomorrow. And of course, my heart dropped because my flight itinerary says 4:10 as well. Same airline, same airport, different story. He told me he was coming back from Alabama, but he told her he was coming back from Atlanta. So we checked the flight number. Same flight. He's not flying from two different places, he's flying from one. And neither of us knew which city he's actually flying from. So we agreed to both go to the airport, but not together, not to be obvious. We would stay on the phone with each other to see where he walks, to see who he looks for, and that would tell us everything. So the next day comes, it felt so unreal. I clean the house like I normally do when he's coming home. Muscle memory, like habit type of thing. I even made his favorite dinner. At 3:45, I left for the airport. She texted me that she was already there. We stayed on FaceTime but muted. Flight land. Passengers start to come out. And then I see him. Same jacket he left in, same duffel bag, same casual smile. He looked so relaxed, not stressed, not guilty, just normal. And then he starts to scan the crowd. And for a split second, he literally glanced over me like I'm not who he's looking for. My heart drops because he keeps walking past baggage claim, past the exit that I'm standing near. And I hear her breathing change through the phone because he's walking towards her side of the terminal. And then I see it. He spots someone. He spots someone. His whole face changes. It softens. He smiles the way that he smiles at me. He opens his arms. But it's not me he's walking towards. He's walking towards her. So she whispers into the phone. He sees me. So now I'm standing in the airport watching my husband reunite with his other wife. And I have no choice. Do I walk up or do I just let him leave with her? And do I follow them? Because if I follow him, I'll know exactly where they live together. I followed him. And what I found, I was not prepared for. Part 5 is where I decide. And I promise you, the house changed everything.
Wait, you're telling me this man didn't just cheat, he ran a full business. Both wives are married legally, and now both wives will be thinking one is the history. No, this is a criminal behavior at this point. This is what we call bigamy. No, because I really need to understand this. He told both wives he was once divorced and went as far as faking a divorce papers with their maiden names. This is not lying again. This is deception. Sir, are you really a scammer? Cause the planning, the boldness is really stressing me out.
So I didn't walk up to them, though, of course, every part of me wanted to. I wanted to tap him on the shoulder and just say, "How was Alabama?" But I didn't. Because if I confronted him there in public, he could lie, he could spin it, he could manipulate. And I needed the truth without the performance. So I whispered in the phone to her. I just said, "Go, act normal. I'm gonna follow you." And she barely nodded. I could see her trying to steady herself before she hugged him. And watching him hug her, it was like watching him hug me. Same hand placement on the back, same forehead kiss, same "I missed you." And he took her bag like he always takes mine, opened the car door for her, same car model as ours, just a different color. And I hung back, I got in my car, and I followed, of course, at a distance. And this whole time, she's still on the FaceTime. She just has the phone in her cup holder slightly at an angle so that I'm able to still get a glimpse of him in the passenger seat. He was acting so normal. Laughing, talking, normal. And I kept thinking, like, how do you switch personalities so easily, so quickly? Or is this the real personality and I'm the alternate? Now, they didn't drive far, literally, probably about 15 minutes. It was a suburban neighborhood, very quiet, very clean, like the type of neighborhood that you would see kids riding around on their bikes in the middle of the street. And they pulled into their driveway, 2-story white house, black shutters, very modern, beautiful. There was a basketball hoop over the garage. And when the garage door opened, I felt sick because inside was a workbench with his tools, not duplicates, his tools. I remember because there was a dent on the red toolbox because he dropped it when we were moving into our new home. The same dent. So this wasn't a second setup. This is shared equipment, a shared life. So he got out the car and stretched like, of course, he just came home from a really long trip. And then the front door swung open and that little girl came running out. screaming daddy, clear as day. And she jumped into his arms like she had done it 100 times. And of course, he picked her up without hesitation, normal. And I just sat there in the car watching, gripping the steering wheel, hands shaking, sweating, because now it's not a theory. He lives there. That's not a vacation wife. That's not an occasional arrangement. That's his house. And I started to realize something that I think hurt it more than the cheating. He seems way more settled there. There were toys in the yard, a bike with training wheels, wind chimes. It looked so established, like lived in, permanent, homey. So they go inside and she ended the FaceTime call, but she texted me immediately. She said, he's acting normal, like nothing's wrong. Of course he is. He doesn't know that we know. So now I'm sitting outside of her house, well, their house, like we're texting each other, like this is some type of operation. And then she sends me something, and it changed everything. She texted, wait. A minute later, she said, he just mentioned next month. Okay, next month, what? Apparently, he told her that he has a conference coming up out of state for 5 days. And the dates? Our anniversary. The one that he told me he already booked a weekend trip for us. So he planned to celebrate our anniversary with me while telling her that he'd be working. And at that point, I didn't even feel confused anymore. I felt angry because this isn't even messy. It's so calculated. He schedules us, rotates holidays, alternate trips. We're not accidents. We're like freaking compartments. And then she texts me. She asked me if I wanted to come over to their house. And I remember staring at the text for a very long time because walking into their house, that makes this way too real in a way that I can't undo. But if I do go inside, I'll see how much of his life is actually there. So I pulled into the driveway, and before I had the time to overthink it, she opens the door. And I stepped into the house that my husband lives in. And the first thing I saw, huge wedding photos, beautifully framed, hanging on the walls. And guess who was in the front row, smiling? My mother-in-law. Smiling like this was the only marriage that existed. So now I don't just have a husband with 2 wives. I have a mother-in-law who knows. And suddenly this is bigger than just him. Part 6 is when I find out exactly who has been lying to me the entire time. And trust me, I was the only one who didn't know.
Craziest part was they went and checked the marriage record and it was legal. He married both women legally, properly signed documents, did ceremony, and he knew he was living double life. That means every I love you and promise is a copy and paste. But I'm sorry, this doesn't feel like an ordinary cheating. This is a fraud romance. Imagine waking up and choosing a chaos like this. Imagine the confidence moving from one wife's house to another. But jokes aside, this is actually scary because how can someone fake legal documents and live two separate lives? Like, what are they capable of? This is why trust issues are on premium these days. Because how do you verify love at this point? Or should we start doing background checks ourselves before saying yes? But sometimes red flag doesn't always come as red, but they come as love.
So I walked into the house trying to act calm, but the moment the door closed, my knees were like so weak. Because, like I said, the house didn't feel temporary, it felt like so established. There were family photos everywhere, holiday pictures with the matching pajamas, pumpkin patch photos, first day of school photos, preschool, let me be clear about that. And in almost every single one, my mother in law, front and center, smiling, holding that little girl like it was her only granddaughter. And I turned to her, the other wife, and I just said, "Does his mom visit often?" And she looked confused. And she said, "Of course. She visits very often. She only lives 20 minutes away." 20 minutes? I live 3 hours from his mom. And he always said that the distance is what makes it hard for her to be able to visit. Hard? Meanwhile, she's apparently over here very often. That's when I noticed something else. On the entry table, a photo from their wedding. And I swear to you, it was the same venue style as mine. Of course, different location, but the same aesthetic, same color palette. He has a type. And apparently, that type is consistency. So I walked further into the house and I seen a long hallway wall covered in like framed milestones. The engagement party, baby shower, birth announcements, and I felt this wave hit me. Because while I was over here thinking that I was building a life with him, he was building a way more complete one somewhere else. There was history on those walls. And then, of course, again, she said something that made my stomach flip. My in-laws were just there for Thanksgiving. But last year, he told me that his parents were sick and didn't want to travel for Thanksgiving. I spent Thanksgiving alone. Alone. Because my husband was with his parents. And he was. Just not with me. So now I'm standing, realizing that I wasn't part of two equal lives. This one had way more roots. This one had family integration. Like they were way more integrated with everything. This one had the child that obviously just meant so much to him. And again, made me feel even more like I was the side wife, which is insane because legally, we both are wives. But emotionally, he invested very different. And then we heard his voice from upstairs, casually calling her name. And she looked at me and said, "He probably thinks you're at home." The irony, right? And I asked her, "Does he have an office here?" She nodded. And of course, he has one in my house too. She walked me down the hall to his office. And there it was. And again, the second that I stepped inside to that office, it felt like the main home. This was his base. Filing cabinet, locked drawers, there was a wall calendar with handwritten notes. And here's what made my chest tighten. The calendar had color-coded dots on it. Blue and green. Blue trips, green trips. She said, "Blue means travel." So I swallowed and I said, "What about green?" And she just stared at it and said, "Family time." And of course, those blue dots lined up perfectly with the dates that he was with me. And of course, the green dots lined perfectly with the days that he was there. So I wasn't random, I was scheduled systematically. And then she walked up to the filing cabinet and unlocked it. And inside were folders: taxes, insurance, mortgage paperwork, a life insurance policy. My vision blurred. Primary beneficiary: her. Contingent beneficiary, their daughter. Not me. I'm not even listed on anything, which means financially, legally, everything ties there. And of course, that realization hit that if something happens to him, I'd have nothing. Because, of course, in whatever paperwork does exist, I don't. So then we heard footsteps coming down the hallway, and they kept coming closer. So she panicked and told me, "You need to hide." Hide in my husband's house. So I stepped into a small laundry room and pulled the door slightly closed. And I listened. He walked into the office, shuffled around some papers, and then he paused. And then I heard him say something that made my blood turn cold. I was so nervous. He said, "Did you move anything in here?" And she answered steady, politely, "No, why?" And he was quiet for a second. And then he said that something felt off to him. And as I mentioned before, he's not sloppy. He is meticulous, which means that if we do confront him, he's going to be prepared. And if his mom knows, who else does? Because you just don't maintain two marriages for 6 years with no one else knowing. And as I stood there in the laundry room trying not to breathe too loud, I heard his phone buzz and he said out loud, "Oh, it's her." Her? And my phone lit up at the exact same time. Incoming call from my husband while I'm hiding in his other house. Part 7, that's when I answer. And what he says on the call changes the entire direction because suddenly he is so suspicious. And I don't think that we're the only ones who've been investigating.
So the first wife and her daughter had property on their name legally, but the second wife doesn't. She was married and not recognized. But let's talk about the mother for a second. She knew about everything. She kept quiet without warning her son. How wicked is she? I feel bad for the second wife because she entered the marriage thinking she was choosing love and secure, not knowing she was married and not protected legally. But honestly, what will you do if you are the second wife? Will you fight for what belongs to you or will you pack your bags and go? Because if it's me, I'm taking this matter to another level. Please share your thoughts in the comment section.